Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're about to hear a revolution in talk radio, Liberty Talk Radio, where the critical thinking will defrag your mind of propaganda-ridden viruses induced by mass media news programming. No BS here, just the facts.
And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio, broadcasting from our studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to around the world. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, and this is your antidote to popular talk radio. Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. But to do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is just about that. Well, welcome everyone to Liberty Talk Radio. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Today I'm just going to rant for a while. We would love for you to call with any questions that you have on the pertinent subjects that we're going to be discussing today. Our telephone number is 646-652-4620. We're going to show up on the screen. 646-652-4620. Please don't hesitate to call in and break in. Now, if you're listening on the telephone and you want to make a comment or ask a question, press the 1 button so we know that you want to call in, and it indicates that on the panel, and we'll know that. Well, it seems as if today everyone is in a state of euphoria. Yesterday, the Dow passed the $19,000 mark, when only a few months ago it was close to 15,000. That rise is just unprecedented. It's almost 4,000 points in the Dow. In my opinion, the Dow should be at 4,000, not at 19,000. But the way things are going now. But we have this euphoria that's been building up in every corner of our economy. And quite frankly, I think it's a con. This sort of reminds me of people who were on the Titanic. You know, here they are. They say, well, geez, we're on this luxury ocean liner. We have everything that we would ever need. Of course, it could never sink because it's made of this steel or metal iron that's impenetrable. And we're just going to have a great time. Well, they were fooled. The steel, although was thick and heavy, and it was the biggest ship of its passenger ship of its kind during that day, it was very brittle. And when it hit a iceberg, it just literally disintegrated, flooded, and most of the people died in the cold waters of the North Atlantic. Well, today it seems that we are doing the exact same thing. Here we are, a people, euphoric about what is going on without looking at the fundamentals. Now, with the Titanic, the fundamentals were, was this ship seaworthy? And actually, after the investigation, they realized that the Titanic was never seaworthy because it was made out of a steel that was brittle. It didn't have any tensile strength. And they didn't know that at the time. Of course, it was something new. That was a newest innovation at the time. So here we are, back where we were many times before. But we haven't learned from the past. It's like building the Titanic all over again with the same steel and letting it out in the North Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean, North Pacific Ocean, and expecting it not to sink. I don't understand our mentality as human beings, not as Americans. We have a problem. Now, let me tell you why I'm not enthusiastic. First of all, I think Trump, although I would never have voted for Hillary, and I'm glad she's out of the fray altogether. We hopefully will never hear from her again. Donald Trump, I would have voted for if someone put a gun to my head. If it was Hillary, I'd say shoot, but that's about as far as I would go. But here we are, and already he's made indications that sort of give me an insight into some of the way he thinks. just today I heard on the news that he will not pursue any action against Hillary in her lying under oath. Now, his logic was that he doesn't want to divide the nation. He wants the nation to heal. Now, let me get this straight. You have one of the most influential people in the world who was lying under oath, and you're going to give her a pass. And yet you have people who are just regular working people who may have a lawsuit against them, may have been stopped by a cop for a traffic light violation, which they may be contesting. If you're not one of the higher ups, I mean, you have to go to jail, or you have to go to court. You have to have your day in court, and if you're found guilty, you have to pay a fine or serve some time. But he wants to heal the nation by giving Hillary a free pass. Well, if he's giving her a free pass, how about next time if I'm speeding and a cop stops me and I say, oh, excuse me, this is my free pass. You see, we're healing the nation. We let Hillary go. Hillary go. Now I want my free pass. You know, the man's not thinking. If you give Hillary a pass, you've got to give everybody else a pass. In other words, you can give her a pass, but when it comes to you, you ain't getting squat. Now, is that healing the nation? No, Mr. Trump. I'm sorry. That's the big con. You see, the problem is that that's bifurcating the economy. Because what you're doing is the elite could do anything and say anything, get away with everything, and that's it. We forget it. We forgive because we're a forgiving nation. But heavens to Betsy doll, that you do something small. You may make a mistake on your tax return, or you're speeding 5 miles over the speed limit, or whatever it is. Boy, you get nailed, you get fined. Well, if we're going to do that to Hillary, why don't we do that to everyone? In other words, no one gets arrested, no one gets fined, no one gets brought to court. We're going to become a forgiving nation, so we can heal. Now, what I just told you is insane, because what Donald Trump is doing is insane. If he wanted to set a good moral foundation for this nation, he would say, hey, I'm not the courts. I don't make that decision. If the legal end of our Constitution says that this woman should be brought to court for lying under oath, then she should defend herself in a court of law. This is not my decision. It's not your decision. It's the judicial decision, and they have to make it. And I'm out of it. That's what he should have done. Let the system work the way it should work. The way it works for you and I should work for Hillary Clinton. But no, he steps in. He says he wants to heal the nation by giving her a pass. But now I want my pass. But I'm not going to get one. And neither are you. So I think this guy's got a real problem. I was very disappointed to hear that from him. And now I didn't expect him to say, yeah, let's hang the girl, let's prosecute her and put her in jail. I don't expect him to say that. I just expect him to let the process work as it should for you and I. Should be no different for Hillary or anyone else in this country. Now, what he in fact did is he bifurcated the nation because he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He was going to give her a pass. Now, folks, we are on a big con. We're people on the Titanic. Everything is fine. You want another drink? No problem. It's free. We have the best desserts. We have the best food in the world. We have the best music. Enjoy yourself. Now, what we're not going to tell you is the ship is going to go down and we're all going to die in the icy waters of the North Atlantic. And what Trump is not telling us is that, eat, drink, and be merry, but this economy is going to implode and you're going to near starve to death. You're going to be like those people on the Titanic. Now, that would be more honest, but he's not. Somehow he's going to save things. Now, people say, well, he's going to come in and he's going to drain the swamp. I love that expression. I'm going to drain the swamp. right? Well, so far, with all the people that he's considering, it looks like he's going to drain the swamp and fill it with sludge. All of the people, hold on a second, we have a caller?
But no question mark.
Oh, no question mark. Oh, what's the area code?
Area code 918.
All right, area code 918, you're on the air. Would you like to break in? Nope.
I would ask them to push the one button.
Oh, if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, please press the 1 button. Does it show up? Okay, I'm not sure if it's working right. Okay, all right. And look at the people he's considering. Yeah, Kissinger. My God, I mean, talking about someone of the inner core of the question mark. Okay, 918, you're on the air.
Hey, Joe.
Good morning.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. You have a question or a comment?
My comment, I can't believe I agree with you totally about Donald Trump giving Hillary a pass. However, I don't think that it's really that settled yet. I think he's just focusing on more important things at the moment, and that he will let his Attorney General continue with that. But I agree with you that he promised to drain the swamp, and she is a big part of it. So he should stick to that. But I'm hoping that maybe we're all overreacting a little soon.
But here's
Let's
my
hope.
point. Why even mention it? He is not the judicial branch of the government. The judicial part of the
That's
branch of
right.
the government is the one that handles it. He's putting his 2 cents in where it doesn't belong. Why bring it up? Why not just let it be and focus on the things that are your responsibility? For example, ensuring that
Yes.
he maintains this country free of all the bureaucracy of the of the government the way we have it now. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear more programs. I want to hear fewer programs. This is driving me nuts.
Right. Well, how do we get in touch with him, Joe? I think he needs to hear what you're saying.
Well, would you
You're
call?
absolutely right.
Well, he won't answer the phone.
We don't
from a
need to
guy,
give her a pass or anybody that's done that much corruption.
But I'm sure you're a beautiful young woman. So would you call him? He would probably answer the phone. Okay.
You're so right. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, thank you
Love
for
your
calling.
show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm be honest. Well, most likely he'll answer the phone if a pretty young girl calls him, so he won't answer my phone. But and I think this speaks. Our caller speaks to the sort of the mentality of this nation. Is that we want to be nice, we want to be forgiving. It has nothing to do with being nice or forgiving. It has to do what's the right thing to do. He should never have opened his mouth regarding that. Now where was I going? I forgot where I was going.
Well, can I step in here and play devil's advocate?
Oh,
for
I
a
have
second?
I have a person in here. He's a surprise guest, and we're going to have him. Gary. Yes, Gary.
Yes.
What seems to be your problem
Okay,
today?
well, the main thing I've heard about why they wouldn't want a prosecutor is that they're very worried, or somebody has said they're very worried about setting a precedent of persecuting the opponent. And since we're dealing with a transition of power that's very volatile, they don't want to prosecute her because they're worried about basically setting an opponent for the loser being punished. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard.
That sounds good. You know what? If we didn't have that excuse, we'd have 15 others, in the closet ready to come out. We always have an excuse. And but yet, if it was you, right, then we say, well, no, we don't have that excuse. Fry them. I just don't buy any of that. I'm sorry. I just.
So what you're saying,
I agree with what you're saying, but they always have an excuse. It's always a reason why they can't do it. But when you go to court, all bets are off the table. There's my point. My point is that we're bifurcating. 646-652-4620. Call in with your questions or comments. Even tell me if I'm wrong, which I really am wrong, unless my wife is telling me I'm wrong. All right. We have an economy right now that is on the skids. We went to 19,000 on the Dow, and here we are in this euphoric atmosphere where everything is going to get better because now we have a new president. So far, nothing he has said has impressed me. He went from building a wall, and Mexico will pay for it, to now he's saying, well, maybe we should put up a fence. Well, does this guy have any concept of the principles of immigration and the free flow of people? Does he have any? I don't think he has any concept of this. And yet, we're putting him sort of in charge of whether or not we're going to have open borders, quasi-closed borders, fenced borders, borders with walls. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. And what he said was very appealing to the masses of the people in the United States who think that if there's a terrorist attack, it's going to come from Mexico. It's not going to come from Mexico. It's going to come from somebody comes over here in a Gulf Stream, and then no one's going to know he came in here. It's not good. Nobody's going to go from Middle East or wherever they come from, or the Far East or wherever, or Eastern Europe, and go to Mexico and walk a couple hundred miles in the dry, hot desert to come here to blow somebody else up. It ain't going to happen that way. And so this thing about the borders drives me nuts. I'm an open borders person. I think if a person lives in Mexico and they come here, they can walk in here, that's fine. If they abide by the rules of the United States. And those people who keep on telling, I get this all the time, they say, they're taking jobs away from Americans. The logic escapes me. You mean if a person comes here, has no education to speak of, that we recognize at least, and has very little education, doesn't speak the language, can't write the language, maybe cannot even add or subtract, right? And comes in and has no particular professional facilities or expertise, and comes here and is dead broke, just like a person is dead broke in the inner cities and he has no job and nothing. You mean this person is your competitor? If you consider that person your competitor, the person coming in doesn't have the problem. You have the problem. The country doesn't have a problem. You have a problem. If I think someone who cannot speak English, can't write, has no facilities, no talents, no nothing, and they're my competitor, I've got a problem with me. I never went to school. I never learned anything. I have no talents. They deserve to have my job. Now, no one is arguing that if there are jobs in this country, picking lettuce, for example, and there have been books written by people, not white people, but Americans who have taken jobs to see what it was like picking lettuce and crops in the summertime, for these large farming companies, and they find out that they can't do it. And in fact, there was one guy on television where they were interviewing him because he did this for a couple of years, and he said the most remarkable thing, he says, he was always behind his Mexican counterparts. He could never finish the row in time. They were always against him. And you know what those mean, lousy Mexicans did at the end of each row? They took crops out of their pail and put it in his. In other words, they didn't want to see the white man lose his job. They realized how difficult it was, and they always chipped in to make him make his quota. Now, let me tell you something, folks. These people come from Mexico are not bad people. I know so many of them. They're wonderful people. I've never had a problem with them. And I come from New York, from Harlem. I lived in the Bronx. I mean, I used to go see Mickey Mantle when he was playing in the Yankees in center field. I used to be in the bleachers. I got more, splinters up my behind than anybody else had. And, the whole bit. And many of the people that I had as friends, they weren't from this. They were from Puerto Rico, from who knows where they were from. And you know something? They were wonderful people. Very, very hardworking. And what I really liked about them is they had a family. Their families were so tightly knit, something that we're missing today in America. In fact, they can't learn from us, but we certainly can learn from them. So let's stop with this border crap, If someone wants to come in and do harm, they'll come in and do harm. And look at some of the people who have done harm already in the United States. They're people who were born here. Now, they may be of the Islamic religions and whatever, but, we don't ask the question, why? Trump says something, and I say, how you're going to do it? It's like the Titanic. It looks good. The Titanic looked great. It can't sink. It's going to sink. Donald Trump is America's Titanic. Not that he started it, but he's making it look good. But it runs bad. No matter what he does, unless he inflicts a tremendous amount of pain on the country in order to fix itself, we're finished. For example, raising interest rates. You want to get a little bit more interest on your money at the bank? He has to raise interest rates. If he does, then we can't afford to pay our debt. If we can't afford to pay our debts, we're going to be taxed more so that the government can collect more money to pay our debt. Now we're even more broke than we were before. The middle class has literally disappeared. And it's not going to come back because of regulation. It's going to come back, as David Stockman would say, we're going to have this great reset. And this great reset is going to be incredibly painful. And I don't understand why people don't understand that. What's missing with Donald Trump is not that he knows what to do. He doesn't know what to do. And the people he's hiring are all political hacks. We're back to the same situation all over again. I think after this election, after the inauguration, and he's in there, and he's responsible, I think there's going to be some real disappointment, major disappointments. And those things that he tries to initiate, I think are going to be disastrous for this country. Because I haven't heard anything that made any sense. Now, he has said he's going to eliminate certain departments, but he's going to get the advice of those people within those departments who run those departments. They're not going to go anyway. They're not going to say, oh, yeah, all these people, these 10,000 people, yeah, fire them. We don't need them. It's a worthless department, which most of them are anyway. But they're not going to do that. There'll be riots in the street. In fact, just today I heard that there will be riots on Inauguration Day. We heard from someone who's an insider who said that be prepared. Things may not be very, very settling after the inauguration. In fact, things are going to get kind of nasty because there are so many people who think that Trump is the wrong person for the job, bad for America, and they won't stop protesting. Well, then I have the question. I always ask why. Why? Why is this happening? Why? Why does someone want to come over here? People from the Middle East who don't have 2 cents to their name, go in a hot desert, learn to become a terrorist, and then come here and blow up a building or whatever. I mean, why would you do that? I mean, people get up in the morning, they have family and friends. They don't want to sit in the desert and become a killer and commit suicide. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Why are they doing it? Well, they're doing it because they're on a mission. Well, why are they on a mission? That's because a few weeks before, a drone came across, and killed a suspected terrorist, right? Bomb was thrown, and it just happened that your mother and your sister were killed in that accident, in that raid. And now you're enraged and you want to get even. Doesn't that make sense? I mean, that happens. We know that happens. We know drones have, and these drone attacks are totally unconstitutional because we're not at war with that country. Has Congress declared an act of war on that country? Oh no, I forgot. It's not the war on a country. It's the war on terror. That's right, it's terror. And since terror is a what? What did we go? The word terror. Can anyone know what is the word terror? What kind of word is that?
It's designed to be incredibly ambiguous. I mean, it means Islamic terrorism now, but I mean, it could mean anything in the future.
It
meant
just
the
a
Russians
term,
20
right?
years ago.
Yeah. Can you imagine? We're at war with a term, all right? So since we're at war with a term, no matter where we apply that term, we can bomb it because we're at war. But now have you seen a declaration of war on that term? And has it been defined? No. So every one of these drone attacks are illegal. They're unconstitutional. Every single troop in every country is illegal, according to the United States Constitution, because we have not declared war on that country. And the president can't declare war. It's got to be an act of war approved by Congress, which they haven't done. But then people say, but there's legislation that says that should this, should that, then then we can say, well, that means nothing. It has to be an act of war. You can't circumvent the Constitution by just writing out this act and saying, oh, yeah, we're going to do it this way now. Because then you could do that to everything, which is exactly what they do. So we have all of these problems, and Trump doesn't seem to be facing them. Now, if Trump came in and said, well, you know what we should do? We should close down all our military bases around the world because all they do is cause more antagonism, and more hatred, right? And we can save hundreds of billions of dollars a year, park all our aircraft carriers, and free trade with all the nations. A lot of this terrorism will dissipate because eventually if people don't know you, they don't want to kill you. I mean, if I don't know a nation exists, would I want to go, well, I have just heard about a nation that I never heard of before. I can't wait to go there and kill some people there. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But if that nation came here and killed my wife and my kids, oh boy, we got a different story, don't we? But we don't want to face the reality. Did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
No, not on that point, but I mean, I agree with you. Basically, we do have a system right now where it's designed where it can mean anything. I mean, terrorism is not really a specific word that can be applied to anything right now. It applies to, Islam right now, but like I said before, 20 years ago, it was the Russians. Now, one thing that's kind of spooked me a little bit about what Trump's 100-day plan is he wants to actually get the military involved in the immigration process under protecting people from terrorism. Well, under this ambiguous term, every country is a particular terrorist. So what are we going to have now? The military checking every immigrant that comes into the country? That seems a little creepy to me.
Watch films back in 1950, and we used to say, the many films about things that were the situation with the military and the civilians in Russia, and of course prior to World War II, in Germany, where are your papers? That's exactly where we're going. Mm-hmm. We're going exactly in the place that we say, this country is free, this is what we want, this is why we're at war, we don't want to be like that nation, but first we have to be like that nation to prevent it from happening.
Right.
Now, is that not insane?
Yeah.
To me, the whole thing is insane,
absolutely.
Right now, the stock market is, like I said, around 19,000. I heard, and everything you hear on TV, you cannot believe. There was a guy, I'll call him a clown. I won't give his name, but he was a clown. And he was supposed to be this highfalutin financial guy. All right, we'll call him Mr. Clown, okay, because I want to be polite. And he said, he looks at the future very optimistically because in the major corporations, earnings have never been higher. Now, he's right. He didn't lie. But what he didn't tell you is that these corporations are borrowing, let's say we are 2 minutes left. Okay. Well, I may stretch that out a little bit, by the way. But the major corporations are borrowing tons of money because there's hardly no interest. I mean, it's like free money. They're taking that money and they're buying back their stock. So when they buy back their stock, there's fewer shares outstanding. So when you make a certain amount of money and you divide it by the stock, your earnings are up. Because they go by earnings per share. Now you can imagine if, let's say, a major corporation, a $10 billion corporation, had one share of stock outstanding. How much would that share of stock be worth? $10 billion, right? But they don't. They have 10 billion shares outstanding or something. I don't know what it is, but let's say they have 10 billion shares outstanding.
Yeah.
Each share would be $1. So he's saying, well, geez, earnings are up per share, right? Mm-hmm. That's because they're buying back their stock with money they're getting for free. Now, our debt is unsustainable. Right now, our debt is somewhere in the vicinity, we're touching on $20 trillion. And there was an article here that I just read. Let me get this article. Brilliant.
Now, is that debt or deficit? Like what we can't pay, like the interest we're paying?
This is debt.
Oh,
this is debt. Oh, yeah. It said here, according to the Treasury Department yesterday, the national debt has soared to a walloping $249 billion since the start of the 2017 fiscal year, just 45 days ago. $294 billion. That's a 13% increase. Now, when they fix the books, really fix the books, I don't mean fix it like make it an illusion, but when they book everything, we are going to be in the vicinity of $21 trillion or $22 trillion by the end of the year. At what point, if you were a foreigner buying U.S. treasuries, at what point do you say, hey, these guys can never pay this back? They're so heavily indebted. I mean, it's like we all have friends, that are nice people, so heavily in debt that you can never pay back, right? We all have them, I have friends that are just in debt up to their eyeballs, and I know, and sometimes they ask me for money, I give them a little money, help them out. I know I'm never going to get paid back. They can't pay back. They're so heavily in debt. They should be in debtor's prison, right?
Yeah.
So when the world realizes we're in debtor prison, right, ball game is over, dollar crashes, all bets are off the table, and guess what? Trump doesn't have a plan for that. Caller, you're on the air. What area code?
732.
732, you're on the air.
River,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
How you doing, Joe?
Is this Joe from Jersey?
Yeah, this is Joe from Tom's River.
Okay, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I just wanted to say you were talking before, and I'm not sure exactly where you're at right now, but I just have a feeling that this war on terror, the war on drugs, the war on immigration, these are all just things, I believe, to keep the people in fear and also to legitimize government, this gigantic government we got, just to legitimize it, to keep the people in fear, It's just unbelievable to me. I don't think we're ever going to get out of this mess that we're in. What do you think?
Oh, I'm in agreement. I think that we are going to get to a point very soon where the government will be unable to continue the facade of being a solvent entity. When that day comes, there's going to be a choice has to be made. Either they return the country to the people, or we become a controlled economy, much worse than the Soviet Union has ever been. And it's going to be either one or the other. It can't be in the middle, because that's where we are now. We're right in the middle. It's going to be one or the other. Now, I'm going to have a guy on the program next week, and he wrote a book called Liberty Lost, and it's really interesting. It's about when occurs about 3 years from now, and when the United States breaks up, where there are certain states says we don't want to be part of your game anymore, and they become sovereign nations in and of themselves, and it's this fight between the states between the free states and the new government, the new United States and the old United States. Fascinating. And I can actually envision something like that happen. But it cannot exist in its present form. Either we're going to go into a free state or we're going to go into a socialistic state. And as Jack Kennedy said when he went to Berlin back in 1960, and he stood at the Berlin Wall, and he said, look over at East Germany. There's your socialistic state. Look at West Germany. That's your free market state. You choose which one you want. And he was absolutely correct. So I don't think it's going to get corrected. I think it's going to be a forced exercise, and it's going to be very, very ugly. Unfortunately, I think, Joe, where I have a real problem is all of these people who are protesting Trump. And I don't blame them for protesting. I don't think Trump is a very good leader to start off with. But, and I'm not, I didn't vote for him. I voted for the Libertarian candidate. But what is missing from their narrative is that they're objecting to Trump. But what are they for, and what is their solution? They have none. They don't know what to do. They just don't like Trump, and they think, Hillary is so compassionate and she will help everyone and that will save our country. No, that'll bring it down to even worse, the worst barrels of hell, than we are now. So we have people who are angry, but they can never delineate why they're angry. Now, if someone tells me why I'm angry, I want to be very specific. You punch me in the nose for no reason, I'm going to punch you back. I want to know why. They don't say that. And I think unless I have conversations, teachers, for example, at all levels, and it's the same conversation. I said and every time I do, it's the same argument. I say I'm not talking about the dedication of teachers. Teachers are the most dedicated people. They care about their students. I'm talking about the system, and I start talking about the system, about the education system itself, and the bureaucracies and the amount of money and all this other waste and fraud and everything like that. And you know what they say at the end? Every single time, oh yeah, but I'm a good teacher. We have lost the capacity to think. Just like these teachers, most people, the people who are protesting, you say, why are you protesting? Well, they say, well, because of Trump. No, why? But why? And they can't tell you. They can tell you.
And it turns out that half of these people that protested didn't even vote or aren't even registered.
Oh, I absolutely. I agree. And so I don't see this Titanic floating much longer. I think it's got to sink. It's one way, shape, or form.
Right. They're just rearranging the deck chairs.
That's right. That's a good. That's a good analogy. And it scares me. Right now, we have the Dow at all-time high because we're in this era of euphoria. And I tell you, why are you so euphoric? And I ask people who voted for Trump are so happy with what he's doing. Say, well, what is he doing? They can't tell me. They say, oh, he's going to fix everything. He's going to drain the swamp. It's like watching television. These people have no idea. And I just wish I could have an intelligent conversation with someone. You can't do it. They just won't.
Yeah, I try with family members and friends all the time, and they don't want to hear it. You try to talk to them about the Federal Reserve and how they're enslaving us in debt, and they don't want to hear it. They don't believe it. They think you're wearing a tinfoil hat.
Well, that's because you're a negative person, and I'm positive. I try to think positively. See, this is the crap I get. Oh, boy, you're so negative about everything.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I take care of my family, and I prepare for the future. Oh, Joe, you're negative. I don't do that because I have a positive outlook. Well, you're an idiot. That's why, but I don't say that, but in my mind, I say, you're an idiot, Can you imagine going out to sea and not having extra fuel for your boat, having extra parts for your boat in case something breaks down, having a radio in case you need to radio contact somebody? Well, if you have all those things, Joe, and you're on a boat and you're going to take this trip and you have these things, you're a negative person. I don't want to go sailing with you, I want to go with someone who's totally unprepared, goes out there and just has this positive attitude that no matter, even if a storm comes up and the ship has a hole in it, you got to be positive about it. And that's our problem. We don't have the right mentality anymore. Europeans look at us like we're idiots. And in every single economic standing, and there's several barometers of economy, of you name it, and there are people who do worldwide economic tests on every country. We lose ground every year. In fact, in one of them, and I forgot what the title of it was, of all the major economic countries, we now rank 47, and I forgot which one it was. But even in the major ones, like on the economic index, we're like number 12. On the economic freedom index, we're number like 24. I mean, we're way down. We have third world countries that are ahead of us now. But no one wants to know that because you know what? When you talk about that, you're a negative person. You don't have a positive attitude. And you're our problem because you don't have a positive attitude.
And I think the biggest problem, or one of them that we have, is the mainstream media. People watch this stuff and they believe what they're seeing and they're hearing. They believe it.
Yeah. Now, they don't lie, but they don't tell you the whole truth. Just like I said before, the guy says, corporate earnings are all-time high. Yeah. Per share, that's because they bought their shares back with money they get from the Federal Reserve for free of charge, without paying any interest.
Right, free money.
Yeah, free money. Yeah, so, I mean, if General Motors had one share outstanding, that one share would be worth billions of dollars. So does that mean General Motors is in better shape because when it had a billion shares outstanding, the stock was only worth $10? This is insane.
And then what's going to happen is when these companies' stocks are at all-time highs, they're going to start shorting their stuff through options, and then everybody who's piling on through their 401ks are going to end up losing everything again, just like they did in 07 and 08.
Joe, just wait a little while and see what happens to the market. Watch out what happens. Watch precious metals is a great indicator. I mean, there are more charts on precious metals that show you the economy. I mean, it's in lockstep. It's almost perfect. You go back 100 years, it repeats itself perfectly. Watch during right after the inauguration. There's going to be some really hard times. I'll be honest with you. I'll sound like a doomsday. I am preparing for the worst. I am not optimistic about our future because we have done and said nothing that makes me optimistic. We're not saying, we don't hear words like, we are going to dissolve this entire department and return the responsibility of this to the people where it belongs or to the states where it belongs. We don't hear that. And everyone that's coming in are the old
Listen,
guard.
Joe, for the better part of 10 years now, I've been putting my money into silver. And, silver, food, storable food, and items like that. I wouldn't consider myself a prepper, just being intelligently prepared.
Right. Absolutely. In fact, there are those who believe that the inauguration is going to be very disruptive to our economy because there's so many people who are anti-Trump. Just like people are still marching the street. We thought they'd march 1 or 2 days. They're still marching in the street. Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't have time to march in the street. These people must not have jobs. And if they don't have jobs, who's paying them? Who's giving them food? Well, they're probably on government assistance.
Right.
Of course, you're on government assistance.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, give me government assistance.
I
I'll
like
march
how
all
they
day.
say, too, not that it matters that Trump won, but then they say, oh, well, Hillary won the popular vote. Yeah, but 49 million of those people were on welfare that voted for her.
That's why we don't have a democracy. Democracy is the worst form of government because you have 51% of the people saying, let's legally kill 49% of the people. And then it's a democracy.
Right.
You die. And that's why we don't have a democracy. Even back in Greece, they said democracy is the worst form of government. Going back hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, they said democracy is dangerous because you have the government will build up a large population of those who are dependent on the government, and when that gets big enough, they vote their self-interest against those people who are generating the income, and that's always economic disaster. Joe, we're about
what we're supposed to have is, aren't we supposed to have a democratic republic with some democracy sprinkled in there, but it's not supposed to be a pure democracy. It's supposed to be a republic.
That's why we have the what do they call the
Electoral College?
Electoral College. Thank you. My brain got stuck. The Electoral College. If you look at the map of the United States, it's all red. In other words, people generally vote. Yeah. But if you just took the inner cities where most of the population is, where people are on some sort of government system, it's all blue. So you can say, well, the people, this is an indication that people who are obtaining free funds from the government want the person in office to continue those programs. If they suspect you're not going to do that, you vote the other way. And that's why we don't have a democracy.
I heard an interesting stat today, Joe. There's over 5,000 counties in the United States, 5,000 counties. Hillary Clinton won only 300 of those counties, and those counties were the most impoverished counties out of the whole country.
Think Camden, New Jersey. I love that place. The police department absolutely abdicated all their responsibility to the drug lords because they had no money. They had to pull back the police. They had to cut back the police, and the drug lords now run the city. Isn't that wonderful? It's a wonderful place,
right.
And but don't worry, Trump will handle all this somehow. He has a magic wand, no problem. You're doing the right thing, Joe. Be prepared. Be good to your family and your friends. Help other people. Be honest. Be truthful. If you don't know the answer, find the answer and tell everyone that you can. And with that, Joe, we're about out of time.
I keep trying, Joe.
All right, I appreciate you
And
calling,
listen,
Joe.
I'm so glad that there's people like yourself out there spreading the message, and I just hope to see that your audience continues, to grow and grow. I'm always telling people to listen to Joe Cristiano, always.
Okay, Joe. Thank you so much. The check is in the mail. Okay?
All right, Joe. Nice talking to you. I'll call in again next week.
Hey, thank you. So on Friday, we're going to have Michael Pinto, who's a legendary investor on Friday. Yeah, we're going to have a show on Friday, and we'll have it next week as well. Thank you so much, Joe, for calling in. Appreciate it.
I'll be tuning in, and perhaps I'll call in.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, I guess this is the end of today's program, isn't it? You want to play that music? Okay. Folks, this is the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for their financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends, and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Remember, as my wife would say, you're either allowing your liberties to be taken away or you're striving to protect them. Unfortunately, there is no middle ground. Until next time, this is Joe Cristiano. You've been listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Stay well. Stay tuned.